Bo, I'm so mad at Mike.
I am too, but I miss him.
Like, I didn't know that he was just literally up and leaving for break this early. And here's me thinking that everything is fine, and we're going to have a normal show, and it's going to be a great show. And then he literally, Bo, sends me this earlier today.
Hi, James and Bo. It's your co-host, Michael Morano here. I'm sure you guys are very excited to get this OSU Thanksgiving episode underway, but I will not be there. I'm actually in my house in South Carolina at the moment. I know it's very last minute, but I think that's the funniest part about this. So I will not be there. So I hope you guys have a wonderful episode without me, because I'm sure I'm going to have a great time not being there. So I hope you guys have a great time, and happy holidays from Hilton Head, South Carolina.
Like, it's just so rude, and the whole time, all right, yeah, but that was pretty rude too. But the whole time I was listening to it, I actually was hearing this.
Yeah,
Oh, look at me, I'm Mike, I'm stupid, I'm from South Carolina.
Oh, I'm Mike, I don't know how to read maps, so I got on the throughway trying to get to Staten Island and ended up in South Carolina.
I have a face
Same
for
thing.
radio. Can you believe
They
this
both have
guy?
an S in it.
The
Wow,
absolute
it was
nerve.
just like that.
So
Just like
I
that.
don't know what we're going to do. Do we cancel the show, Bo?
I think we might have to.
All right. Not so fast.
Is that
I'm here.
Brian Rudman, the
What's his
future
future?
editor, sports editor of the Oswegonian?
Just roll it.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to Oswego Sports Update. Go on, camera two. Camera two. Salutations, viewers. Welcome back to Oswego Sports Update. I'm your host, James Catato. Alongside me, Bo Drake Deese and Brian Rudman.
Wow. Already better than Mike with this.
And more handsome.
I think-
Thank you for
thank
choosing
you.
us as your pre-Thanksgiving viewing. We'll try to keep it as festive as possible. As always, we got a great show for you tonight, so let's not waste any time. Jump right into things. So last week, we were talking about the Oswego State men's ice hockey team and how they could bounce back after losing to Geneseo 9-1. And then we analyzed their upcoming game against Hobart and thought they had a chance to get back into the win column. Well, the Statesmen had other ideas. After downing the Lakers 4-1 in Geneva, the Lakers are now on an ugly two-game skid, losing and giving up 13 goals in those two games. Bo, I'll start with you, and then Brian, I'll send it over to you. How much of a confidence killer is this for the Lakers?
Well, honestly, I wouldn't call it a confidence killer. I think the thing that I would like to call this, as a fan, is a gut check. I think that the Lakers had a really easy time with it. You start off the year with 4 games right in a row in the Marona Campus Center. It's always going to be more comfortable when you start it off at home. And they beat all the teams that they faced very handily. There wasn't a whole lot of opposition for them. The Brockport game was a little shaky, but in the end of it, they won 4-1. So I think what this is like, hey, when you start playing these teams that are a little more highly ranked, things can get pretty ugly for you pretty fast. So I really think that this showed them that we need to kind of reevaluate where we are and what we're doing.
Yeah, I think these last 2 games are really a wake-up call for this team because, like you said, Bo, first 4 games at the Morano Campus Center are always going to go a little bit smoother than, a road game. And then, honestly, your toughest task of the year is your first road game. That visit to Geneseo, always tough. But at the end of the day, 9-1 with 7 power play goals let up, that's just really unacceptable for this team. So I really think that it's a wake-up call for this team. And then going to Hobart, I think they missed some of the guys who we didn't see in that Hobart game. I think that hindered their offense a little bit. But I really think a wake-up call is what this team got from these 2 games.
Now, Brian, you talked about how tough that part of the schedule is, Geneseo, Hobart, and now the Lakers' schedule is only going to get tougher from here, despite playing both the Knights and the Statesmen, which are 2 of the top 5 teams in Division III. Geneseo is 2, Hobart is 4. Now they have to play Salve Regina, who's ranked, and that's in the Utica Invitational first round, and then possibly play either Utica, who's in the top 15, or Plymouth State, who made the NCAA tournament last year. Brian, do you think it's realistic for the Lakers to have a winning weekend?
I don't know how realistic it is at this point because I think they can split, and I think that's what they need to do is at least get 1-1 out of this weekend. But tough times certainly could get tougher for this Lakers team because the schedule does not get easier. Like you said, this is the toughest stretch of their schedule. They're in the back half of it now, but 2 tough tests definitely coming up no matter how things shake out on Friday and when they'll be playing on Saturday. Things won't get easier, and I think this team really needs to get a confidence-boosting win at some point this weekend. And I think it starts by scoring early. You get your goalies a little bit of pad. They haven't been playing with the lead lately, and that's one thing they did really well last year. So I really think getting ahead early will help this team if they're going to get that bounce back.
Yeah, definitely. I think, again, looking at it is exactly what Brian said. These numbers for the rankings are going higher and higher and higher, and Oswego, has been bumped down a couple of places. So I really think that, you have to get on the puck, and you have to get on the puck early. You have to make the job easier for your goaltenders. We've already seen David Richer out for, just one game. You don't know if that's a nagging thing or if that's completely resolved, but you got to make sure there's a little bit of load management there for him.
And in our Oswego preview, we're obviously going to be talking about the men's hockey team going into that Salve Regina game in Utica. Bo, I'll start with you. You did talk about the goaltending, the overall defensive prowess of the team. What is the biggest thing that Oswego needs to correct going into it?
I think undeniably the biggest game for Oswego in these next big games is their discipline. I think, you're giving up most of your goals. The 13 goals in the last 2 games have all been power play goals, or most of them, I shouldn't say all. But if you're giving up this many power plays, and even if it's a bad ref call or something, something like that, you're doing something to put yourself in a position where, they're able to make that call. So I think if you stay out of trouble and you start to think about where you're going with the play, just slow it down. Think about it.
Yeah, see, I'm going to take things to the other side now. I think they got to get the power play going, because the power play was one of the best things that they did last season. Top 10 in the nation the entire year, and they really haven't gotten it going at all. They got things going a little bit 2 weekends ago in that Brockport-Geneseo weekend, but obviously things did not shake out the way they wanted to, and then struggling again last weekend. This is something that's got to be corrected. When you play tougher teams, you can get away with not scoring on the man advantage when you play the weaker teams, especially at home. But when you go on the road in these tough matchups, you got to start getting the power play going.
Well, we'll see how it plays out. For you dedicated Laker fans out there, the Utica tournament will be at the Adirondack Bank Center this Friday and Saturday, with the Lakers playing Salve Regina at 4 p.m. When we come back, we got the headline hits and talk of the town, Beantown, Boston edition. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Country road.
Welcome back to OSU. Despite taking down the Dallas Cowboys in a low-scoring affair last night, the New England Patriots looked incredibly beatable, at least on the offensive end anyways, led by their quarterback Tom Brady, who only seems to throw checkdowns and slants anymore. The Hall of Fame QB hasn't hit 300 yards in 5 straight games. Brian, is Brady over the hill, and will his average play be able to push the Patriots to another Super Bowl? Because remember, they're still 10-1.
So I think we are starting to see his play decline. I think we start to see the weapons that he's had on the offensive side, especially in the passing game, go down. But I don't think this will hinder the Patriots in any way. You look at this team, they're one of the best defensive teams in the league. They have a great running game, and that's ultimately how they win games. You go back to last year's playoffs, and you would just see them control the game. Long drives to start things off, keeping the ball on the ground. And at the end of the day, Tom Brady's not going to turn the ball over, which is a big key for this team. And Julian Edelman is one of the most absolutely hardest to tackle players in the league at this point. You just can't seem to tackle that man when he gets the ball on check down. So at this point, it's a winning formula. And also, they have one of the best coaches of all time,
ever.
in Bill Belichick.
Yeah.
So if it ain't broke,
we do.
don't fix it at this point. I think, Tom Brady's not really going to slow this team down.
Definitely would agree with you. I think that they have the best corner in football in Stephon Gilmore.
Absolutely.
I think the only thing that they can beat is themselves when it comes to getting through that AFC. The Boston Bruins are making some waves in the NHL world once again after starting the 2019-20 season out 15-3-5. They sit atop the Atlantic Division and have the 3rd best record in the Eastern Conference, only behind the Washington Capitals and the New York Islanders. Bo, what do you think has been the bright spot for this Bruins team, and can they make a deep run, or is it too early to tell?
I think we're a little early right now. I think the cool thing for me at least, if we, it's pretty obvious that I'm a fan here. But
he loves this talk of the town.
Yeah, what do you know? It's pretty obvious that this is majoritively the same team as we had last year, and obviously we went to a Stanley Cup final, but there's a lot of question marks moving forward. Patrice Bergeron out indefinitely. You really missing your top center there, so that's gonna be an issue. We are 3rd in the East right now. The Islanders and Capitals are both playing really well right now. The East is always a very, very tough division to play in, especially as far as hockey's concerned. And I think that we always have a bit of a slump at some point in the middle of the season, but we always get a little tighter on playoff time. There is such a thing as playoff Tuukka Rask, but there's no such thing as regular season Tuukka Rask. I really think that the Bruins have the opportunity to really run it back to the Stanley Cup final again this year. Is it too early for me to say that they are going to do it? Yes. Is it too early for me to say it as a fan? No, they're going back, and they're going to win it this time.
Well, I think that they definitely were the favorites to win the Stanley Cup last year.
Yep.
So we will see if they're able to bounce back and actually win the Cup this year. For our next story, I saw a few articles pop up on my Twitter feed today about this, and it definitely sparked my interest as a Yankees fan. And after the New York Yankees designated first baseman Greg Bird for assignment, there were whispers floating around the league that the Toronto Blue Jays and, of course, the Boston Red Sox could be interested in the 27-year-old. Brian, Mitch Moreland, and Justin Smoak are both free agents, so the Jays and the Sox will be without a legitimate first baseman. Does it make sense for the Sox to pick up Bird, and how do you think he helps the team, if at all?
I don't think that he's the guy for the Red Sox at this point. You look at him, he only hit 171 last year. He's a career 211 hitter. I don't think this adds much to their offense, in all honesty. And I think if it does, it really only just slows down this lineup. This is a team that, when they're at their best, can go 9 guys deep in this lineup who can all get on and can all create havoc on the bases. Back in 2018, when they went to the World Series and won it, they got it done by getting on base and being aggressive. So I don't really think Greg Bird adds anything there from that perspective. I think if you're the Red Sox, you look at guys like Marco Hernandez, who's already in there. You think about moving Michael Chavis permanently over to first base and maybe picking up a middle infielder in free agency. We'll have to see. You also got to take into consideration they may not really be in the market for anyone in free agency this year because they're already dealing with some salary issues, and they're even thinking about getting rid of Mookie Betts to dump some salary. So I really don't think Greg Bird. I really don't think Greg Bird is the answer here. If you're looking to cut down on salary, I don't think he adds that much to this lineup.
Well, I think that the fact that they don't have a definite first baseman right now, I think that the fact that he has shown that when he's healthy, he can hit the baseball well, that if you're able to get him on a stretch of health, which is a big if, Bird could provide for you at the end of the day. Finally, the Boston Celtics are playing some great basketball, but will be without their point guard, Kemba Walker, for at least a little bit. After colliding headfirst with teammate Semi Ojeleye during the team's matchup against the Denver Nuggets, Bo Kemba is averaging 21.1 points and 4.7 assists in the green and white for however long he's out. And it's only a sprained neck, so it doesn't seem like he's going to be out for that long. He was only questionable until a few hours before they played the Kings. Does this Celtics team still find a way to win? And they did beat the Kings by a point, but the Kings are a pretty solid team. Do they find a way to win?
Yeah, I think so. I think that Kemba is now become an integral part of the Celtics. I mean, we knew he was going to be that when he came in, but so was Kyrie when he came in. But Kemba seems much more of a square peg in a square hole fit for this Celtics team. Mm-hmm. I think that, we've seen Jason Tatum and we've seen Jaylen Brown playing better and more consistently because he's been able to distribute the rock a little bit better to the rest of his teammates. Even Marcus Smart. I mean, first of all, he's hitting threes, which is unheard of, and I don't understand. But, I think that, the Celtics team can find ways. We've dealt with injuries in the past before. I think we can get behind a coach in Brad Stevens who really will be able to find a way around these injuries. He did it with Gordon Hayward, and then when Kyrie went down in 2017, and we got to the Eastern Conference Finals, I think that we've seen this happen before, and I think it can happen again.
Yeah, I mean, the Celtics team this franchise has always been at its best when they have a pass-first point guard. I think that's what they have in Kemba Walker. So while I think they can find ways to win, at the end of the day, they need him to come back and they need him to keep doing what he has been doing if they're going to make a run in the playoffs. But I think in the short term, doesn't affect them too much. I still think they find a way to win. 100%.
Amen to that. Well, when we come back, we want to dive a little further into the Boston Celtics and what will happen if they keep getting hit with the injury bug. Talk of the Town is up next. Don't go anywhere. You're watching OSU. Welcome back to OSU. Brian Rudman is still more handsome than Mike Morano. So as we previewed a little bit in the last segment, the Boston Celtics have lost Kemba Walker for a little while due to a sprained neck after his collision with teammate Semi Ojeleye. With Gordon Hayward being out and injured as well with a broken hand, Bo, how many injuries until the Celtics team really starts to feel the sting and it affects their record?
Well, I'll tell you, if it gets any deeper than this, it's gonna be real stinging. Because I think the next worst thing that could happen is Jason Tatum or Jaylen Brown go down. I think that if Marcus Smart, who is leading the team in assists, goes down, I think you can recover from that because while he's distributing the basketball, I think you can have other guys pass. I think more than likely you can find 2 guys on that team who are going to be able to make that next pass. But if you're losing Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum's leading the team in steals and Jaylen Brown's leading the team in rebounds, those are two bigger stats because that's defense and finishing off plays. So I think if it gets past that, then it's really going to hurt.
Yeah, the one thing I'll say on Smart, though, he brings a lot of intensity on the defensive side. I think if you lose him, that causes problems. You go back to last week when they played the Clippers, they're really only in that game because of a hustle play that Marcus Smart made. So I think, Smart would be a big loss. I think we do have to acknowledge that that causes problems on the defensive side.
Well, yeah, I have to agree with that. I mean, if you need that spark plug, you're going to have to get it. But I think that, especially with a couple of rookies playing really well right now, and bringing I'm sorry, but Taco Fall, if you want to bring him in and just get that.
Well, it's not just Taco either. You have so many players in the G League right now, including a guy like Tremont Waters, that has proven to be very solid, and then you have a guy like Grant Williams who can just flat out play. So like the beautiful thing is that Danny Ainge is such a smart drafter that this young core has been so solid. But I do want to kind of shift the focus a little bit on a veteran player, and that's Gordon Hayward. Brian, ever since he's gotten to the Celtics, ever since he's moved from the Jazz to the Celtics, he has been so injury prone. We know how good he can be. Why do you think he's been so injury prone since coming to the Celtics?
Well, honestly, I mean, when you get hurt in your first quarter, the way that he did with this new team, it's really just going to slow you down. It messes things up. It puts you out for an entire year, and that just slows down not only your timeline. You're gonna have wear and tear on your body that you didn't have before. And at the end of the day, you're out of basketball for a long time, and I think that that definitely doesn't help. And then now with the hand injury, I don't know if it's injury prone because realistically, yeah, he was out for a year, and that's a big problem. But it's two injuries at this point, two big injuries, and it's a big problem. But I think at this point, it's just been bad luck for him. I think the first quarter of his Celtics career, he gets injured and he's out for the year. It's just unfortunate for him.
Yeah, I don't think he's written off, though. Like, I don't think you should write him off as injury prone right now because he really has been doing, when he's been in, he's been doing a decent job for the Celtics. I'm going to ignore last year just because I think there was a lot more going on in the background.
Oh, there was a ton going on behind the scenes.
So I'm going to ignore that. But this year, I thought that his chemistry worked really well with the players on the team so far. I think him clicking with Jason Tatum, really like
words are hard, Bo.
they are really. I don't know why I'm here.
Names too, man.
They really are kind of tough. But I think that we've seen the chemistry and him understanding his role on this team has changed. I think we thought when he came on, we thought he was going to be 2. Right now, he's probably 6.
Right. No, I definitely agree with you. I think that the way that Gordon can play, we've seen him at an all-star caliber level, but at this point in time, there are so many guys that can step up, and Gordon himself can be a contributor in that role, but he's not going to be like what he was in Utah anymore. He's not going to be that main scoring option anymore where he's a multiple threat on all tiers. He can be a solid role player in the starting lineup for them, and I know role player starting lineup sound like two different things, but he can be that third, fourth, fifth option on that Celtics team, and that's a really good issue to have if he's healthy and if you're the Celtics. And all of that stems from the head coach, Brad Stevens. So, Bo, does Brad Stevens put himself in a really good position for Coach of the Year if he's able to get this team to the Eastern Conference top 3 despite these injuries?
So I'm going to try this word thing again. But I think I think he does, especially if they have another guy that goes down. Like if they have a Jason Tatum go down, or if I think if they really even have a rotational player go down, but Brad Stevens finds a way to Greg Popovich himself around this and kind of create a system a little bit here. I really think that he could put himself in a position for Coach of the Year. Even if the Celtics don't really make that push deep into the playoffs that, I'm hoping for. I think that, he could really solidify himself as one of the more premier coaches in the league, which I think he already has given the 2017 season, but there's just been a lot between here and there with Kyrie.
Yeah, I mean, year in, year out, he's been one of the most consistent coaches in terms of his team. He helped rebuild this franchise after, the Big 3 era when they traded everything away. I think if he can get this team into a prime playoff position, get them some home series, and ultimately make a push, I don't see why he can't win Coach of the Year.
I would fully agree with you. I think that Brad Stevens has established himself as outside of the Greg Popoviches, the Doc Rivers, the Steve Kerrs, that he is up there in the coaching elite, and he just really hasn't gotten a chance with the Celtics team to go far enough. Now, guys, really quick, because we got to go to break. Fully healthy, how far can they go? Give me a round prediction. Injury-ridden, how far do they go? Really quick.
Eastern Conference semifinals, Game 7. It's questioned after that.
I think they can make it to the conference finals. I think they're a good enough team when healthy. if they're injury prone, they may struggle with a team like the Pacers that they may see in the first round of the playoffs.
I'll take it. I'm going to say conference finals and semifinals. When we come back, I promised that we would keep the Thanksgiving theme alive, so that's why I'll tell you why I'm thankful for the one and only, yes, the New York Jets. Dap me up, Brian. My final
Jets
take is next. Stay tuned. You're watching OSU. There are always so many things to be thankful for on Thanksgiving. Good grades, family, a nice meal, the always handsome Dan Corlett. But for me, I have to be thankful as a sports fan for the New York Jets. At the beginning of the season, I'm not going to lie, I was really nervous. They started the season out 0-4 and almost traded away players like Le'Veon Bell, Jamal Adams, two top-tier elite players in the NFL. But I'm so glad they didn't, because now, winners of 3 straight, the Jets look like they're starting to figure out not only themselves, but Adam Gase's offensive and defensive coaching style. We went from Sam Darnold literally saying that he was seeing ghosts to coming back and averaging 279 yards over his last 3 games. We all know the raw potential that Darnold has. We're not oblivious to it. Ever since he was a teenager at USC to being the youngest quarterback to ever start an NFL game at the time, we knew this kid had the overall package to be a stud. He just needed the pieces around him and be able to stay healthy and not get mono. Unfortunately for him and the team, when he was not only diagnosed with mono and then was without wide receiver Quincy Enunwa and Chris Herndon for practically the whole season, things started to look incredibly bleak for this franchise, and another season of mediocrity was on the horizon. Now that may be the case again this year. After all, 3 of their 4 wins this year have come from teams out of the lowly NFC East. But that one quality win against an Oakland Raiders team this past week that was really pushing the Kansas City Chiefs for the division gave me hope. Not only was Darnold great, throwing for 315 yards, 2 touchdowns, and no interceptions, but the whole team came together and played solid football. Jamal Adams was laying people out. Literally, as soon as Derek Carr threw the ball to a receiver, Jamal Adams was right on top of it. He was ball hawking the entire game. And then the rush defense, they came to play, only allowing 68 total Raider rushing yards. And even the offensive line, highlighted by Kelvin Beachum Jr., who played out of his mind, arguably the best game of the entire season for him, protected Darnold and allowed him to get into a rhythm. Look, Darnold said he thinks his team can go 9-7 and make the playoffs. Do I believe him in the slightest? Well, maybe if he wasn't out for so long at the beginning of the season and he hit a rhythm earlier, I might believe him. They're 2 games back from the second wildcard spot in the AFC. The Steelers currently hold that, and they would have to win out. Now, I don't see them heading into Baltimore and beating the Ravens, led by the MVP favorite Lamar Jackson in Week 14. But the rest of their games, the Bengals, the Dolphins, the Steelers, which that would be a great makeup game for them in the wildcard race, and then finally the Bills. They're all incredibly winnable games that could put them at 8-8 when all is said and done. And for me, especially after starting the season out 1-7, that's a moral victory for not only myself, but the entire Jets organization. And that makes me optimistic for what's to come in the following years. Remember, this team still has a lot of young pieces around it and will be good. Just be patient, fans. It'll take some time, but it'll be worth it in the end. Trust me on that. Thanks for watching. Be sure to stay tuned in next Monday as OSU hits its season finale and reminisces about all the great sports moments in Oswego and from around the world in 2019. Shout out Brian Rudman for filling in on the desk, and Bo for just being Bo. And for all of us here, eat some turkey and have a happy and safe Thanksgiving. See you next Monday. Wow.